Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we returned home from a flyby of Duna, and we currently have 677 science. We need 1,000 to max it out. So I actually want to hop over to our science lab on Duna, which would be... I mean, this is close enough, but we're going to do the combined Duna lander here. We're going to hop in here and hopefully, I think we'll have 500 science to send back. I think. Pretty sure? Yeah, we should. It's been in-game years since we've been here. So we definitely should have it. That should be absolutely fine. And then we can continue to work on our exploration contract. We're going to have to dock up 2 craft around Duna, which is going to be intriguing for sure. I would like to transmit back this science. We have 497. Yep. So we'll transmit that straight on back. Beautiful. We've, of course, got a very solid connection here. Duna looking absolutely beautiful, as usual. Excellent. So we are 60% done with our transmission here. 70. And once this is done, we'll head on back to the Space Center. And we'll grab our last bit of tech. Cool. So 497 science added. We'll head back to the Space Center. We've got 1 piece that we need to grab for 1,000 science. From here, we don't care about science. So, to that end, science will equal money from here on out. We're going to set something up in the administrative building for that. So let's hop in here. And actually, we have to do that individually, right? We have to do that like periodically, sell our science for money functionally. I believe so. So there's our tech fully done. In the administrative building, we do, I think, the research rights sellout. Yes. That's the way that this works. It's a one-time strategy or one-time effect. It does not remain active, but it can be accepted as many times as desired. So we can only go up to... Actually, we can't do any commitment here because we need to upgrade this thing. We probably should. Let's just bump this guy right on up to the max at this point. That will pay for itself eventually as we do research rights sellouts. But we can definitely get ourselves 9,000 here, selling off all of that science that we no longer need. We can also cancel this fundraising campaign. And we can put in a new one at... something like 85% of reputation gains? Sure, we'll do that for now. So that will yield us additional funds for each unit of reputation. That sounds good. Now we need to dock up 2 craft in orbit of Duna. And what do we want that to be? We could make it very simple. Or we could make it overly complicated. And if you know me... overly complicated is ideal. So let's start with something crazy. Like our Eve lander design here. We're going to start with this. This is absolutely insane, of course. We're going to ditch everything that is below here for the moment. And then we're going to get rid of our spacecraft here. Now, let's put in something along the lines of a cupola module. And we're just going to start the construction of a station. I don't know what kind of a station this is going to be. For the time being, we're just going to do a cupola module. And I think we're just going to have this be a very basic station base because I don't really have a design for what I want this to be. We just have a contract for it, right? So we could put a Jumbo 64 here. Or what if we built it off of this base? So this is all detachable once we get there. And then we would, assuming that we get there and have these detached, I don't know if we would or not. That would be interesting to find out. Assuming we did that, then we could have docking ports out here. But if it didn't detach, what if we put telescoping hydraulic cylinders here like this? So that we can extend these out and have docking ports that are out this direction. Maybe these are a little on the big side. We'd go for maybe like 1P4s. And then we put like a pair here and then a pair here. And these would be our docking ports. Just a very basic setup here. Now, I would like to put in a large remote guidance unit. That is too large of a remote guidance unit. A large remote guidance unit here. We should probably have some form of power for this monstrosity. Do you have a reaction wheel? Actually, yes, you do. So there's a lot of reaction wheel right up in here. We should probably have a battery in this. At least a, decent-sized battery here. It's like a 4K. There we go. We should have some form of power generation. 1x5s would probably do the trick. We don't need quad coupling. And I would have them go in somewhere like here so we don't immediately break this one by hopping out. There we go. Now, this doesn't technically have to be manned. And this makes it difficult to dock up here. So what if instead we had these be quad at a 45-degree angle, about like that? That gives us a lot more space to work with. I like it. We're going to, of course, call this the Duna Station Core. We need to put in our docking ports. That would help. Let's put in regular Clampatron docking ports. This direction, I believe. Get in there. There we go. About like that. And then we would put in additional Clampatron docking ports over here. We would need to also get those put in here approximately like that. So I want to just double check. They should extend out. Yes, they do. Beautiful. So we have extendable arms there. Now, this is going to be very wiggly. Very wiggly indeed when something gets docked up to it. We'll want to strut it in. Should the struts be located here or in the modules that are intended to attach to it? I think I'll do it here. So we would end up putting in the cargo here, we put in like an SEQ-24. And then we just filled this bad boy full of struts. This is going to be maybe a little bit tedious. How many struts would we really need here, though? I wish that we could duplicate the stack. Sadly, we cannot do that. How many struts would we really need here, though? It would be a maximum of, like, 16 per side here, so 32. So that would be half of them that we would need. And then we can just bring an engineer for the purpose of attaching the struts. And the engineer would be responsible for running the station. We'd probably want to hire a new engineer for that. So in theory, this is all the struts we need. Okay, let's save that. Let's hop out of here. And we're going to hire ourselves an engineer for this station. Of course, we're going to be having the drone core be the pilot. So we don't need a pilot for this, just an engineer. And then we're going to send, I don't know, like a power module or something over. A science module could be interesting, but we've already got pretty much all of that science on the surface of Duna that we just need time to get, right? So that should be fine. We're going to hire this engineer. That's quite expensive, but we're going to do it regardless. And from here, we should be basically ready to launch this thing. Basically. I don't know if we'd be able to detach the Cherenkov. I don't know if we'd even want to. We may want to keep these attached just for purpose of having storage, right? And this can act as a refueling station if we need it to. So it would look something like this. As far as our crew goes, we'd not be bringing Jeb. We would be bringing Dunhat. Perfect. So let's save and launch this. I think we're ready to go. So just make our way on out to Duna. Our timing is probably not great, but, you know, it rarely is. And we've got so much Delta V in this thing. An absurd amount of Delta V in this thing. Our second module that we're going to send up is absolutely going to be more lightweight. There's no doubt about that. But I would like to deliver this entire section to Duna here. So that should be quite doable here. We will kill Rot, throttle up, and off we go. So we are out of here. I want to go up through the atmosphere reasonably swiftly here, because we have some potential parts that could burn off if we are a little too aggressive on our gravity turn. So I'm going to target about 200 meters per second this time. That's faster than I normally go, for sure. I want to see how that feels, though. And we're going to have to hop in here. We don't have a KER, but that's fine. We do not need a KER to get this going. So we're just rotating over a little early. I said 200. Okay, now we're at about 200. Cool. So I'm keeping an eye on that apoapsis and time to apoapsis, continuing to increase. That's always great. We've got about 15 seconds until our SRBs detach. Now, SRB detachment shouldn't be that big of a deal here, in theory. Okay, I'm going to park here for a moment while our prograde marker gets caught up a bit. 10 seconds on SRB. This detachment shouldn't be all that risky, though. So I think we're fine to not be at the prograde marker for this detachment. So I'm just going to keep heading on over here. SRBs will be burning off relatively shortly. We're at 45 degrees now. Cool. And I'm just continuing to head over. SRB detachment is now. I was a little late on that, but that's fine. So at this point, our apoapsis is looking good. I basically just want to be at horizontal velocity up. So we're going to head directly on over here. Apoapsis is 50 kilometers right now. I'm keeping an eye on that time to reach apoapsis. It's holding. So this looks good. Yeah, this looks completely fine. The main problem, of course, is we're going to have a detachment here in 15 seconds. And we're pretty far off of prograde at this moment. I guess we'll see how clean that is. Should be interesting. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Nice and clean. I like it. Okay, so that looks great. We're going to continue burning here and getting horizontal speed. We can see time to apoapsis is increasing, so this is looking good. We're punching through the upper atmosphere here, and I don't know what our vertical speed is, but our apoapsis is now officially in space, so that's looking fine. I'm going to keep burning here until our apoapsis is 100 kilometers. We would normally be deploying a fairing if we had bothered to bring a fairing. I did not. And really, we might have been better off having these be placed out here. We could move them, to be clear. We'll see. We'll see what that ends up looking like. 84 kilometers on the apoapsis right now. And continuing to go up. 90. 97, 98, 99, and 100. Beautiful. So at this point, we are going to circularize here at 100 kilometers, of course, as we tend to do. Something like that'll do. We'll head on over to the node, and we're not out of the atmosphere just yet. We're very, very close. Let's physics warp as we go through. And we're virtually at orbital speed here. This is only going to be a 200 meters per second burn. We'll extend our solar panels just to make sure that we don't run out of power. There we go. We don't have a longer range antenna on this thing. I just realized that. We'll definitely bring one for our communications module, but our comsats will likely do just fine. If not, we could maybe use MechJeb to plot a trajectory from Kerbin here directly to Duna. We have the tech to do that now. So we could theoretically do that. We'll see what this ends up looking like after we get into orbit. We do have a lot of comsats, but I don't think that this cupola has a particularly great antenna. 5K? Yeah, not great. We could swing by one of our satellites and steal one. That is a theoretical possibility, actually. Kind of a funny possibility, but a theoretical possibility. It's definitely not like we're short on Delta V, right? So that is a possibility. But let's see what we're looking at here once we get into orbit. So we're officially in orbit now. This is close enough. So we would want to burn on the dark side of Kerbin because we want to go away from the sun. So a prograde burn here would push us out like so. That gets us a second encounter with Kerbin, of course. We want to push this out and see... We'll set Duna as our target. What's this timing looking like? So the target would be here. We would be here. Obviously, that timing's not ideal. So this would be what we would be looking to do. What if we were to toss in a big old radial component? It'd be kind of awful. But we could do that. Yeah, we definitely could. That would end up bringing it in very awkwardly. Okay. What I'm really looking to do is to get us an encounter over here. If we can just shoot directly there, I'm okay with this being not particularly efficient. So what if we were to just change our burn time here a bit and have it be... Okay, that's getting substantially worse. I saw it very, very close here. Okay. Let's back this guy off a wee bit. What if instead we were to burn... Let's do this, right? And if we were instead to burn radially just after we exit the sphere of influence of Kerbin, what would that look like? We should still have radio communications in theory at that point. So that would end up being, you know, somewhere around here. So a radial burn there would bring this guy right on around. No. The easy way to do this, of course, would be to just use MechJeb. We can certainly do that. So we would end up finding ourselves an encounter here for MechJeb. If we wanted to do that, we would do a rendezvous planner, if I recall correctly. Rendezvous target must be in the same sphere of influence. Right, it's not this one. It is in the maneuver planner, advanced transfer to another planet. And then we would choose like either lowest delta V or ASAP. And we would create that node. Computation not finished. Okay. It's apparently still working on this. Include the capture burn. Okay. So the ASAP would be departure in any time now. Transit duration would be about a year. The lowest delta V would actually be shorter transit duration. And this would be a much better time to do it, right? So I just want to create the node and see how MechJeb is doing it here. Okay, yeah, it's just delaying the departure time and basically just doing a standard home and transfer. That's nothing too complicated there. The final encounter would end up looking like this. I don't love the inclination. We could maybe set the periapsis to be a fair amount higher, like 1,000 kilometers. We'll remove all those nodes, and we will create that. What does that put us at? Yeah, we'd have an easier time changing our inclination there. I mean, that's an option. And I feel like it might be the best option in this situation because we don't have an antenna and we can't guarantee that we'll have a connection during the transit period. We should have a connection once we reach the Duna system, thanks to our combined Duna lander relays here. And thanks to our relay satellites on Ike and on Duna's surface. So in theory, that should be okay. So I think that's what we'll do, and I'm not going to use MechJeb to execute the node. I'm also going to delete this maneuver here, and we're just going to use this encounter. So this is literally the exact same scheme that I was talking about using previously. If we go into our maneuver editor here, we would need to select the maneuver. Yeah, this is basically the exact same scheme that I was talking about doing, except waiting until the proper departure time. So that seems reasonably fine. Let's warp over there. This is flickering rather a lot, and it's going to be a little bit until this warp is complete. It's going to be some time before we want to actually fire this, right? About a year and 200 days. So I will be back in just a moment as we approach the end of this time warp. See you guys in a bit. So here we are with the time warp finished. It just finished up. We do need to align to the node here, so let's get heading over there. Things are moving very slowly, but it looks like we are heading over that direction. Cool. Now, I would normally not use MechJeb in this way, but we do have the tech available. This is lacking an antenna, so we needed a maneuver that would get us directly to where we were going. Oh, we're going to be slightly late on this burn. That's exciting. Well, we're just going to burn a little bit on the way over. And we're not using MechJeb for executing the node, so that's reasonably fine. Let's commence this burn here, and we're not quite in position for it, so things are going to be a little wacky. We'll probably have to do a corrective burn. That's reasonably fine. But MechJeb just gets us here faster and in one go, which, with our lack of antenna, having this planning done does need to happen, right? So that's absolutely fine. The question now is, how off are we going to be by that start of this burn? Well, we'll find out. We're going to have a lot of fuel when we get there, but that is kind of the point. This is, in some ways, intended to be a refueling station around Duna, so that should be absolutely fine. We are going to continue this burn for another 15 seconds here, and then this will stage. So that's all looking good. Once we get up into this portion, of course, thrust to weight is going to be a lot lower. That's also going to have an effect on the actual burn. Okay, so off we go. We're going to physics warp this at this point. And we'll see what our final burn ends up looking like, but it's not going to look like this. I can tell you that right now. So we've got about 2 minutes on this burn time now. Cool. And I'm just hoping for an encounter. That's all I'm looking for out of this. As long as we get an encounter, we can set up a burn here, and that'll be fine, even if we don't happen to have a connection at the time. Which we should. By the time we get here, we should certainly have a connection. So 80 meters per second to go here. Make that 40 coming out of physics warp right now. And let's see what this looks like. I'm hoping that we have an encounter. Okay. I stopped the burn there. We were moving pretty quick. So it's definitely a little bit off, right? Not shocked about that. Let's go to prograde. Let's thrust limit this guy down. And I want to put this in a fairly minimal orbit around Duna. Like, similar to our combined Duna lander relay, I think. No, actually, I've changed my mind. I want this to be in an equatorial orbit within the orbit of Ike, I think. That way we can use Ike to gravity assist on the way out if we feel like it. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So, in that case, we probably want to change our normal here. That's a little gross how much that moved, but sure. Do I want to go normal or anti-normal? Okay, that's exciting. Let's just take this on over to retrograde then. We'll position over here, and actually, we should probably do a full-on warp for a bit and just see. Okay. Just wanted to check to see what that would end up looking like. We're still over Kerbin, so that's reasonably fine. Let's bring this on in a little bit. I think sitting at 1,000,000 meters is a decent amount. But I would like it to be equatorial, and so we're going to have to make a bit of a normal change here. Let's head on over towards normal minus, so anti-normal. Is this the correct direction? It's really hard to tell. We need to thrust limit this a little bit less. Let's take it up to like 10% thrust. I think this is going the correct direction. Ish. Now it's kind of not. So now we're going to go over to retrograde. And we're going to retrograde this in a tiny bit. Okay. That was more than anticipated. This is probably fine, though. We were coming in retrograde to Ike's rotation, or to Ike's orbit. This is no longer retrograde, so I think this is reasonably fine. We cannot add a maneuver node because we're control locked. Okay. Well, we can enter an orbit over here whether we're control locked or not. We can always point at one of these directions and just throttle up or down, right? So that's reasonably fine. We'll just enter an orbit here and we can make corrections. But it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, off we go to Duna. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, James, Shadow Wolf, Emlohan80, Ro Corvid, Kentogan, Andy Magar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12 UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.